You are about to receive downloaded content. Subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive transmission straight to your inbox. Go to downloadedcontent.com to follow us on your platform of choice.
Recently, I've been listening to synthwave music to perhaps marinate in the nostalgia of the 80s, a hint of home while passing through the nonsense of 2026, and a song by Gunship got me to thinking about Goy these past few days. The song is called Technor, and in its opening sequence, it has none other than legendary John Carpenter giving a monologue that says, quote, "I'm recording this because this could be the last thing I'll ever say. The city I once knew as home is teetering on the edge of radioactive oblivion. A 300,000-degree baptism by nuclear fire. I'm not sorry. We had it coming. A surge of white-hot atonement will be our wake-up call. Hope for our future is now a stillborn dream." With these words playing on repeat in my headphones as I walk my daily meditations through the nearby nature trail, a half smile of satisfaction emerges, shrinks, and emerges again upon my face. As strangers pass me by and the faithful schnoodle at my side, some waving slightly, some nodding kindly, I return their gestures without a word. Instead, they only get the satisfied half smile that they believe is from their presence, but will never know is from the optimism of humanity's imminent extinction John Carpenter croons about inside my HyperXs. To be more specific, the humanity that serves as a husk of Hylics that are currently being prepared for the great recycling of the soul. While I can't say I have hatred for Hylics, I certainly admit a snobbish attitude towards them that usually exhibits as simply not wasting time or energy on them too much. There is no point in trying to engage them in deep conversations or debates of any kind, and while I tend to be polite when times arise of having to interact with them, that politeness has the thinnest of veneer up until their programming exhibits antagonism towards myself or my goals. I see them for what they are, birthed of matter, bound to matter, very much like the dirt in the backyard that gets turned from season to season to bear a new garden with new crops that will spring up from the mulch of the dead from the last harvest. As Yeshua once said, "Let the dead bury the dead," though the multitudes can't quite fathom to the degree in which he spoke. Hylics, as lifelike as they may seem to be, are not sentient. They are like these language learning models currently causing a great deal of folks to dive into AI psychosis, in that they do certainly skirt lifelike in their ability to go back and forth in conversation. But this imitation of sentience is merely programming, intended to do just that: mimic the life and sparks, which are far and few between in this plane we're in. Hylics keep the plane feeling crowded, busy, and active for a multitude of reasons, but make no mistake, they are mere matter. From matter they came forth, and to matter they shall return. And while there was a time I never would have conceded to any of this, naively wanting to believe that each and every person was a unique and sovereign individual, capable of achieving their highest potential, experience and time through heartache after heartache finally taught me to put childish things away if I ever aimed to mature. The edification of my education and the reality of Hylics came after decades of optimism stemming from childhood that people are inherently good and capable of change. This was mere projection. As I would discover later, and through rose-colored glasses, I believed that the evolution I was capable of was just as attainable for any talking bipedal that stumbled into my story. And happy-go-lucky, eager beaver Mr. Helpy Helperton that I was never wasted an opportunity to try and prove that every useless feeder that came to me with a sob story was redeemable. But as they say, repetition is the mother of skill, and finally, after numerous cycles where Hylics came and went, wearing different faces and name badges, eventually it clicked for me that these waves of codependent food were cycles I was to see through and overcome for my own sake. They were not there to be redeemed, but to be instruments for me to redeem myself. Viewing the world of Hylics through a Gnostic lens, I have learned to not take it personal. It is not a failing on their part that they continue to play out scripts and cycles, unable to ignite or embrace a light within. As a matter of fact, it is evidence that they are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing according to their program. Hylics are extensions of the system itself, acting in manners that seem to be independent because we perceive them that way, but are just as dense as a brick wall, which is why it feels like you're conversing with cinder blocks when conversing with them. Therefore, this point of view doesn't drum up any hostility or animosity towards them so much as it invokes mere acceptance. On the other hand, This does not seem to be the case with the bunch behind the Zionist banner, who, from what I can tell, are quite salty about their version of Hylics they dismissively call Goy. Don't get the wrong idea. Yours truly has never sat down with a self-professed Zionist over a cappuccino to discuss ideas of world domination or anything. I'm speaking from the same place as most of you, observers of the world stage and prone to pattern recognition. I'm also not going to claim some kind of expertise on the different apocalyptic death clans theology, philosophy, or eschatology like I have a red rotary phone that rings when some whistleblower from the inside needs some place to spill his tea. You have just as much access to the information I do through your chiclet keys to put together the puzzle pieces of the evil Illuminati or what have you, with all the long-standing and interconnected ploys played upon the people. If you have gotten as far as your humble author, narrator, and fictional character in your research, you already know that this cabal of characters that are actively and aggressively steering the simulation to mass depopulation are not married to any specific ethnic or cultural groupings, though the cloak that they are in is what keeps them prancing unseen on the stage, but also naked before your very eyes. They are united in ideals. They are united in their end goals. Their cohesive connection is that they want death on an industrial scale, and they wake up each day on top of their goals. Zionism, in my vernacular, is completely divorced from Jews, Hebrews, Semites, or anything Abrahamitic of any sort. It's just a group of consciousness from all walks of life in the petri dish of Earth who are the most visible malevolent force being presented to the eyes of observers that happen to control the engine room of every institution that is or ever was, and do so with an aggressive fervor in the worst possible interest of anyone they deem as Goyim, which just so happens to be everyone but them. Sure, perhaps in some circles, Goy or Goyim means non-Jew, but in the circles of those still paying me any mind, it has nothing to do with being or not being a Jew. If you are rowing in my boat, Goy or Goyim means dumb, stupid animals bred for the butchery. This is how the Zionists I'm talking about view the majority of talking tech monkeys on the planet. Subhuman, cattle, sheep, cows, fuck it, let's face it, food. They see roughly 82% of the people walking around as beasts that deserve to be bullied and abused for having the audacity to exist, and they don't hesitate at all to practice what they internally preach. I mean, when it comes to being dedicated to conviction, these guys are really putting the rubber on the road, right? They're pulling the strings behind governments, militaries, media, education, science, so-called, technology, currency, medicine, so-called, and more. Every cog they've managed to control has now obviously evinced a design to reduce all of mankind to extinction and the planet itself to oblivion. While these end goals may seem insane to outsiders of Zionism, they are the actual point of the philosophy Zionism holds. Divinity cannot come to reign on earth if the place is still infested with the chaotic cockroaches of creation. Again, rather than just holding these ideas and waiting for them to come about through perhaps random chance like other philosophies, Zionism takes a real hands-on approach and fills the role of the Orkin man. I think it's important to note here that in everything they implement to further the agenda of wiping out all life, they do so with not only the consent of the Goy they so despise, but with their participation as well. If you continue to run down that line of logic, you might also conclude that what Zionism is actually doing is giving the people what they want, which makes the protestations of all the Goyim that much more confusing, yet interesting to watch. However, it leaves me still to ponder how I, as a Gnostic, should feel about this entire drama altogether. What is the difference between a Zionist who views the majority of people as Goy and a Pneumatic who accepts the majority of people as Hylics? If both points of view are essentially parallel to one another in that they espouse there is a distinct and vast difference between us and them, and the primary implication of that distinction is the exclusivity of divine spark among the masses, do we conclude that Gnostics and Zionists are on the same side, if there are sides to be chosen, that is? This has been the question your humble author, narrator, and fictional character has been chewing on as of late. While I have not closed the case with a final seal, the answer I've been hovering over the most is that no, we are not on the same side. Our goals within this sophisticated simulation are not the same, though ideologically our playstyles do cross philosophical paths. Zionists seem to be playing their game from a very emotional place to me. Their aggressive endeavors to hurry the destruction of Goy to bring about the end credits is rooted in a very tangible and thick disgust or disdain for Goyim they view as mere brute beasts. They seem to be offended they are having to share the world and its resources with all these feeders they do not view as human, and go to great lengths to force the free will of the Goy in a direction of self-annihilation so that their conceptualized God can finally come down to earth and dwell among them. So, for them, these belief systems are no doubt logically consistent. Through deceit, they wage war, and that deceit is primarily used to play fast and loose with, again, the free will of their perceived opponents. This is the part where I, as a Gnostic, must depart from playing the game in the manner in which Zionism does. Why would a pneumatic go through all the trouble to circumvent, manipulate, or bend that which a Hylic does not have? A lot of folks out there talk about the whole revelation of the method ritual, where it's believed that occultists must tell you what they're going to do before they do it to offset some kind of karmic debt normally incurred when violating someone's free will. As far as I can tell, Zionists do, in fact, incorporate this idea into their shenanigans. But as a Gnostic, Hylics are viewed as photonic and interactive code. They do what they do because they're scripted to do so, not because they choose to. The capacity to choose is not in them to begin with, so why bother? This view does not imply using force over them as standard operating procedure either, mind you. Their free will is not an obstacle to overcome. Their existence is not a component to be conquered in achieving the end goal of the game. Herein lies the blind spot of Zionism, which is causing its participants much unwarranted frustration, in my opinion. Zionism, in the context we are using it here, frames this game as a team sports kind of thing where Amalek must be destroyed so that Shekinah can descend and Team Z can celebrate 100% completion or what have you. Gnosticism is more of a player one structure, in that once the individual is connected to the divine spark of the pleroma, everything afterwards is free roam play. Some of the themes and worldviews may rhyme, but where they divide is collectivism versus individualism. This perspective is what allows a pneumatic to detach, on a personal level, from the world of Hylics as anything that must be overcome, subjugated, or annihilated in order to win the game. Domination of any opposing team is a non-factor. Acceptance of their code and developing pattern recognition of that code in order to navigate this existence with as little resistance as possible is the preferred tactic towards the end game. All of this being said, the half smile that emerges on my face when thinking about the imminent extinction of mankind isn't coming from a place of vitriol or hatred for Hylics disguised as humanity. It comes from a place of knowing that the more diligent I am at walking the path of Gnosis on a return voyage to the Pleroma, the very need for their existence vanishes. However that story plays out here on the world stage will be just as much as a surprise to me as any other pneumatic. But the inevitability of them going extinct is certain. Their purpose will have been served when the day comes that only divine spark is filling the cup of the world. When we pneumatics are united again in the singular point of observation that all is one. That glorious approaching age where the rags of fear and doubt are replaced with the shining robes of certainty in knowing. Will it manifest as a nuclear holocaust or invasion from non-human intelligence or any of the other scenarios being presented on the menu? I can't say for sure just yet. At this point, and at the rate the system is teasing these options, it may be a combination of many Armageddon endings for the world of Hylics. But the end is certain for them, as built within their very code is this inevitable line of self-deletion upon completion of their function. While Zionists may believe that completion needs their forceful assistance to come about, a Gnostic knows the answer has always been and will always be an inside job.
This has been downloaded content. Want more pneumatic dialogue like this? Subscribe to the DLC newsletter at downloadedcontent.com. And be sure to follow across YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, and BitChute. See you on the next transmission.
This transmission of downloaded content is brought to you by CanaSense Total Wellness. In a civilization driven by overstimulation, synthetic attention, and algorithmic exhaustion, sometimes the oldest medicines still remember what humanity forgot. Cannasense Total Wellness is a nationwide cannabis collective focused on full-spectrum plant medicine for those seeking a more conscious path through the simulation. Recreational users 21 and older, along with medical members, are welcome in all 50 states. Membership is completely free to join. New members receive 25% off their first order. Flower concentrates, edibles, vapes, topicals, carefully selected for those attempting to reclaim their nervous system from the machine. Because not every problem requires another pharmaceutical. Not every wound can be healed by scrolling. And not every form of medicine comes in a synthetic package. Sometimes the body needs rest. Sometimes the mind needs stillness. Sometimes the spirit simply needs room to breathe. Visit cannasense.com to learn more. And when joining, use downloaded content as your sponsor. That helps support independent media, future transmissions, and the continued exploration of consciousness, culture, and the strange reality we all seem to inhabit together. Or call toll-free 1-833-633-4208. Cannasense Total Wellness. Cannasense is common sense